Hey guys, how's it going? We are here for a great video. If you're wanting to attract hummingbirds and feed hummingbirds this growing season, this is the video for you. I have put together the best plants that we have grown in our garden that attract hummingbirds that they actually love. There's a whole bunch of videos out there that tell you, oh, these are the ones that attract hummingbirds. And I have tried growing a ton of them. We get a ton of hummingbirds here, and personally, I found that that list isn't always correct. So these are the ones that we have tried in our garden, that we have grown, that I know hummingbirds love. We get a ton of hummingbirds in our garden every single year. We have them year round here. And so I feel like I can speak on this subject just a little bit. So I put together the 10 plants that I see hummingbirds on all the time. So what's great about this list is these are flowers that produce a ton of flowers, so they have big impact in the garden. They're gorgeous in the garden, and the hummingbirds love them. I have some annuals and I have some perennials on this list, so this is just kind of a mix of everything. Some things that I start from seeds, some things I bought from the nursery, and I feel like it's a pretty good list. Just add a couple and you will see a ton more hummingbirds in your garden this year. So first plant on my list is Salvia. And I love Salvia. We grow Salvia pretty much every single year in our garden. It is a perennial, so it does come back. But specifically, I want to talk about this one called Hot Lips Salvia. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous salvia. It is higher zones only. It's growing zones 8 through 11. It is a beautiful salvia with multiple colors on it. We grew this one for about 2 years and we have since taken it out, and I do feel very guilty because the hummingbirds loved it. It is a shrub. It stays evergreen for us. I'm in a growing zone 9A in Northern California. And as I'm saying that, I just saw 2 hummingbirds fly right past me. I don't know if they were on camera or not. It gets about 36 inches tall and wide, and it takes very, very well to pruning, so you can keep it in check if you need to. And the thing bloomed for us pretty much nonstop, and we saw hummingbirds on it most of the year. It was a really, really cool plant. Gorgeous one to add to the garden, and I think I should probably add it again to the garden this year. That plant is what made a huge kickstart for us to wanting to make sure that we had plenty of things for pollinators to feed on in our garden. While you don't just have to grow the hot lip salvia, pretty much any salvia will do. Hummingbirds really do prefer plants that have tubular shaped flowers, and most salvias have that tubular shaped flower, so they will love anything salvia. But specifically that hot lip salvia, if you're in a growing zone that's higher, definitely grow it because the hummingbirds will thank you. Okay, the next one is a zinnia, and I love zinnias. We did a whole cut flower garden. Everything behind me was cut flower garden 2 years ago at this point. And we grew a whole row of zinnias, and I found that hummingbirds flocked to the zinnias. They were always feeding from them. And why they're feeding from them is because zinnias have these little teeny tiny florets on them that are tubular shaped, and the hummingbirds love them. So they can go from tube to tube to tube to tube around your zinnia, and they love them. They're a great flower to feed your hummingbirds. And what's cool is they come in a whole bunch of shapes, a whole bunch of sizes, and a whole bunch of different colors. So they really should fit in every single garden. It's best to just start them from seed. They're so incredibly affordable to start from seed. You can buy them in a 6-pack if you can find them. Usually you'll find them at local garden centers. You won't find them at big box stores. So check local or start them from seed. They grow from seed so easy though. So highly recommend getting a $3 pack of seeds and trying to grow your own. They are one that if you don't have a grow room or a setup to be able to start seeds, you can direct sow them. They direct sow very, very easy, and they germinate very quickly. We even found, they're not related to hummingbirds, but this moth called the hummingbird moth on them, which I thought was kind of funny because we saw hummingbirds on them all the time. And then for the first time ever, when we grew a huge patch of zinnias, all of a sudden we got hummingbird moths in our garden, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. The next one that's on my list is a rose of Sharon, and we have 2 of them on our property. We recently just added a second one because the hummingbirds went crazy for them. We were constantly seeing hummingbirds feed from them. They actually really like hibiscus, and rose of Sharon is in the hibiscus family. They're a beautiful plant. They get about 12 feet tall and about 8 feet wide, so they're very, very large. You can prune on them to keep them in shape. Also with this one, beware. They can be invasive in certain areas. So before you plant this one, make sure you check and see if it's invasive in your growing zone, in your state, in your area, because they do take over if they do self-seed everywhere. We don't deal with that issue here, so I do plant them in my garden, but I have heard a lot of people say that they do self-seed and they do take over quite easily. They are hardy in growing zones 5 through 10, so a huge range of zones, which is really, really nice. Like I said, we're in zone 9A, Northern California, and they do so well here. They prefer a lot of sun. They prefer as much sun as you can possibly give them. They really like to cook. They take to like really poor soil, so rocky soil. They don't want to sit in a ton of water though, but they do like a good amount of water. So great plant to add to your garden if you're wanting some vertical interest and to make sure that your pollinators are nice and fed. Okay, the next one that is on my list is one that I was very reluctant to add to the garden. So I added one plant last year into my garden, and one of my best friends, she absolutely loves this plant, and I didn't love it. And I added it, and I saw that the hummingbirds went crazy for it. It is a Kinphofia, or a red hot poker. They do come in an array of colors and an array of size. You can get them where they stay very small, or you can get them where they get very large, up to 4 or 5 feet tall, or you can keep them to where they are in a smaller size. I got one that stays about a medium size. They are growing zone 5 through 9, so big array of zones that can grow these ones. And I personally, they are parking lot plants where I live, so I personally don't love them, but now seeing that the hummingbirds go crazy for them, I do think that it is a plant that is worth it to add to the garden. Even if it's just one, if there's something that a hummingbird loves, I will put it in my garden. So the fact that I added one of them to my garden and the hummingbirds loved it, I was like, okay, it can stay. It was the right choice. The next one that is on my list is petunias, and a lot of people grow petunias, and I had no clue how much hummingbirds absolutely loved petunias. So we grow a lot of petunias, usually every single year, and it's so fun to watch the hummingbirds go from petunia to petunia to petunia and just suck out the nectar, and they really do enjoy them. And I love petunias because of how big they get or how small they stay. They come in an array of sizes, they come in a huge array of colors. So whatever color palette you're going for in your garden, petunias have got you covered, and the hummingbirds love them. They're great for feeding them, and they're also great for other pollinators too. And they just bloom and bloom and bloom. So it's big impact in your garden. They are an annual. And like I said, you can get them in any size. They've got ones that stay a foot, and they've got ones that will get 3 to 4 feet wide. So great plant to add to your garden if you're wanting to make sure your pollinators are nice and fed. Petunias, they bloom constantly. The next one that is on my list is a butterfly bush. And while it's called a butterfly bush, hummingbirds actually really love this plant. Butterfly bush have huge clusters of flowers, but those flowers are all tubular shaped, which is one of the hummingbirds' favorite things. They really like those tubular shaped flowers, and so adding a butterfly bush is a great plant to add. Be warned though, they are invasive in a lot of states. They're not invasive where I live, and when they do self-seed, they don't really take over where I'm at, so I don't worry about it too much. They do come in a great variety of sizes. You can also get ones that are sterile if you do have an issue with them taking over, so get sterile ones. But the sizing is really nice because you can get ones that are about 2 feet tall and 2 feet wide, or you can get ones that get 12 to 15 feet tall and same width also. So that's really cool. They've got them in every size. They've got them in lots of colors. The most common ones are white, pink, and purple, but you can also get them in blues, you can get them in gray colors, you can get them in pastel colors. So they've got a good variety of colors to add to your garden. One thing is though that they do bloom on new wood, meaning that you do need to help keep them in check because they're just going to continue to bloom just on any of the new growth. They're not going to bloom on old growth. So you don't want to just continue to let this thing grow. If you get a 15-foot tall one, your blooms are eventually only going to be at the 15-foot tall mark. So they are also known as second-story plants, meaning that you only get to enjoy the blooms if you are looking down on them. So keeping them in check really helps, and the pollinators really love them. The butterflies love them, butterfly bush, but the hummingbirds also go really crazy for them, which for us was kind of unexpected. I didn't quite realize how much the hummingbirds love them, but we have one right next to our seating area, and they're always buzzing around that thing. So it's a really good one to add. Next on my list is foxglove, and I love a good foxglove. We just did 2 very large drifts of foxglove in our garden, and I cannot wait to see these bloom. The hummingbirds love them. They go really crazy for them because they have those long trumpet-like flowers, which gets them all excited and riled up. So usually we'll see them going absolutely mad over the foxgloves. Usually I'll plant 2 or 3 of them, but this year I am doing huge drifts of 15 plus of them. So I'm very excited about that. I'm really excited to see how crazy they go after these foxgloves in our garden. To be noted though, foxglove are considered poisonous or toxic. So if you have animals or small children that do eat your plants, I probably would steer clear of them if you're worried about it. But pollinators do love them. So we don't worry about our animals eating our plants. They don't ever eat any of them. So we do grow them. Like I said, if it is an issue, I would steer clear of them just to be on the safe side. Foxgloves are known as a biennial, meaning that they bloom usually on their second year. So there are some varieties, the Dalmatian variety, they bloom first year, so you'll get blooms the first year that you plant them. But biennial means that you're gonna get blooms the second year. So usually your first year, you'll just get growth, and then the second year, you'll get your bloom stalks. So it's really good to know which variety you're planting in your garden. I like to do the ones that bloom first year because I am not patient and I don't just want foliar growth for 1 year and then wait to get my blooms. So they're a very short-lived plant. They usually only live 2 years, and then what they'll do is they drop their seed and new ones come up. So they self-seed absolutely beautiful. Growing zones 5 through 9 usually, and they should come back for you. Sometimes we have issue with them coming back because of how hot and dry our summers are here. So sometimes it's a little tricky for us. The bloom spikes on them do get about 2 to 3 feet tall, and they really don't spread more than 1 foot to 1.5 feet wide. They don't take up much space, but they do grow vertically absolutely beautifully. So great one to add to your garden, and my favorite ones are the peach colored and the pink colors. The next plant that is on my list is Agastache, also known as hummingbird mint. And this is such a cool plant. And I'm so excited to be growing a few more in our garden this year. I've got some really beautiful ones that we've got growing, and I've got a few more coming because I know how much the hummingbirds absolutely love them. Hence the name hummingbird mint. I mean, if that doesn't give you a clue as to any of these plants to grow, I mean, come on, hummingbird mint, how cool is that? So it's a really gorgeous plant. They grow growing zones 5 through 9. Some of them grow up to a zone 10, but they do like full sun. I do give ours a little bit of protection from the hot afternoon sun in my growing zone because sometimes we'll hit 112, 113 degrees, and that's just a little bit too much heat for them. While they do like a lot of heat, I do like to give some of my plants a little bit of a break from that hot afternoon sun. The most average ones grow about 1 to 3 feet tall and about that width also, but they are the occasional ones that get up to about 6 feet tall and wide. So make sure you look for which variety fits best into your garden. I personally prefer the smaller ones. The blooms are a bit more condensed on it. I don't like the ones that get much larger because they're a little bit more airy and spread out. I really like those condensed, lots of blooms on them. And what I do like about them too is they do have a good range of color. You can get them in purples, which is the most common color, but you can also get them in kind of an orange color and peachy colors. They also have some that are almost blue. And so they've got a really good array of colors to add to your garden, and the hummingbirds go crazy for them because of how many little teeny tiny flowers are on them. They really love that. The next item that is on my list to add to your garden to feed the hummingbirds is bee balm. And I know bee balm, hummingbird, 2 different things. Yes, they are 2 different things, but the hummingbirds really do love bee balm because they've got the trumpet flowers and they've got a ton of flower blooms on them, so they really do go crazy for this plant. There are multiple different varieties, so you can get dwarf varieties or you can get more native varieties. The dwarf varieties will usually stay about 1 foot tall and wide, and the other varieties, the more native ones, will get about 3 to 4 feet tall and wide. So you've got good selection on these ones also, and they do come in a great array of colors, and their colors are usually very, very vibrant. So very bright colors, which is really fun to add those pops into the garden. And like I said, the hummingbirds just go mad for this plant. And so do the bees. So it's a really good one to add just to feed all of the pollinators in your garden, but specifically if you're wanting to bring more hummingbirds into your garden, it's also a great one. And the last one that is on my list is morning glory. And this is one that is a hot topic, I will say. Hummingbirds really love morning glories, but they can take over in your garden. They self-seed very, very easily, and they come back strong. So there's a difference between morning glory and there's a difference between bindweed. Bindweed is the one that grows on the ground usually. It looks just like morning glories. They are so closely related, but they are different. Bindweed is a pain in the garden because you cannot get rid of it. It grows underground by rhizomes, and those rhizomes can go for 15 feet underground, and you'll never catch up to it. So bindweed is a pest in the garden, total pain, and it does not provide anything. While morning glories, they only produce from seed. So the only way that it's going to take over your garden is by seed. And so I know a lot of people have said that they have an issue with morning glories taking over in their garden, and it's going to take a couple years if you let it self-seed and drop seed everywhere. We've grown morning glory here for 4 or 5 years at this point, and the hummingbirds love it every single year. They're constantly buzzing around it and constantly feeding on it. They come in a great array of colors. If you want ones that stay a little bit smaller, they do make some that stay a little bit smaller, not many. The more average ones, they get about 10 to 15 feet tall. They're a vine, they spread, they want to wrap around, so you need to make sure that you are giving them lots of support. And they will pop up next year with seeds, and it's really easy to stay on top of it. All you do is just go out there, weed, pull the seeds, and you won't deal with that issue anymore in your garden. We had one area that we grew it for 3 years, and last year I dealt with probably 30, 40 little seedlings popping up, and I just went and pulled them, and it wasn't an issue after that. So it's a plant that is a high maintenance plant the following year because of the amount of seeds that it drops, which personally, sometimes I don't mind because I'll just let them continue to grow, and I'll let them grow up the vine where I've got them. I've got one area where I grew it last year, and I do plan to let some of those little seedlings grow up because I know I want them to grow up a trellis that I've got for it. So Morning Glory is a great one to feed your hummingbirds. They come in a beautiful array of colors. My favorite is this mauvey one. It's called Chocolate. It is to die for, and the flowers on it are massive. They've got some that are smaller. They've got striped ones. They've got whatever color you want and variation that you want. It's a beautiful, beautiful plant. Hummingbirds love it. The pollinators love it. I found bees on that thing all the time, and it makes a beautiful entrance into anywhere if you've got a little arbor that you want to grow it over. But like I said, just be careful. It is a pest it's a bully in the garden, okay? It can be a thug, but it does not mean that it's going to be invasive and take over. It can be invasive in some areas, so look up if it's invasive in your state, but there is a difference between invasive and a plant being a bully, and this one is definitely a bully in the garden. And that, my friends, is all that I have for you. I do want to talk about this little one plant that I have right here that I'm sure a lot of you guys are asking about. This is a lilac vine, and it is so gorgeous. This plant is a gorgeous plant. I don't think it's a hummingbird feeder. It's going to be my first year growing it. It's a vine, and it's beautiful. It gets about 16 feet tall, so it's a good vine. It's not absolutely massive, and it's growing zones 9 through 11, so it is higher zones only. But I've had some people who are in much lower zones say that they grow it in a pot with a trellis, and then they just bring it in during the winter time. But it's one vine that blooms very, very early, and a lot of people have said that they get blooms on it usually about December time. So usually you'll get a couple months of blooms on it. So I'm very excited to add that one to my garden, even though I'm not positive it's going to be one that hummingbirds like. It doesn't seem to have the flowers that I know that they go after. So I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you'll be adding to your garden to attract and feed hummingbirds this year. Thank you guys for visiting our garden. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.